We've got the Vyman Bohemian floor malted.
Yes.
It's probably the most expensive malt you can buy as a base malt.
I didn't know I was leaving at the time.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't afford to pay you after you spent all the money on the ingredients. Welcome everyone to another episode of A Beer with the Brewer. And today I'm joined by a very special, although probably a little bit reluctant guest. Gaz, how are you, mate?
Amazing.
Amazing. Very good to have you on, mate. Thanks for coming to see us.
Yeah, I only came for the free beer, but it's lovely that you dragged me on the camera. Thanks, mate.
No worries, mate. So, mate, you worked for us for a little while. I think you put in a stint of about 6 months or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think it was a bit longer than that.
A little bit longer?
Went so quick.
Went so quick. Time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun. And now you've moved on to, I guess, a new career.
Yep.
But the reason we've managed to drag you on, I don't think it actually would have happened if you were still working for us, was to talk about the Czech yourself Czech Pilsner.
Yes.
That you brewed.
Yes.
So let's crack it open, mate.
Oh, thank you.
It's a good, at least 32 to 35 degrees in here, I reckon. Nice and steamy. Look at that, beautiful. Nice brewer's pour. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
So, mate, before we dive too far into the beer, we'll have a little chat about your good self. So, you were working in the beer industry for 10 odd years?
Yeah, it was close to 12.
Close to 12. So you started off back at Blue Tongue?
Yeah, actually did. I sent a random drunken email one night to Blue Tongue, hoping to get some free beer like I'm doing here now. And
we already gave you a job.
yeah, and I got a response. Thankful for the email and asked if I wanted to have a tour, me and some friends, if it was possible, and I did, which led to a meeting with the brewery manager that encouraged me to apply for a brewer's job.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing led to another. I beat, I don't know, a lot of other applicants who were clearly more qualified than I was, but
must have just had, thought you had a bit of pizzazz about you, mate.
Oh, well, clearly do. You hired me, so.
So, what, 12 years ago, what was that, 2010, 2011, something like that?
Yeah, 2011, it was back into 2011.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And then how long were you at Blue Tongue for?
It was close to 2.5 years, so.
That was probably close to when they would have finished up, wasn't it, back in?
That's exactly why I left. So, yeah. After about 2 years, I was with them. SAB Miller, who had owned them, had in the process taken over CUB, and so we fell under CUB's leadership.
Yep.
And whoever the powers to be, decided that having 3 big breweries plus Cascade down in Tassie, all on the East Coast, was too much. So they decided to close a 2.5-year-old brewery down. Yeah,
well, I remember in the early 2000s, I actually used to make a bit of Blue Tongue myself. Shows how old I am. Back when I was a young pup brewing.
Far older than I am.
So yeah, we were making it in Geelong under contract. That would have been, I don't know, 2006 or 7, something like that. And they were just growing at the time.
Yeah.
It almost, to a degree, predated a lot of craft beer or craft breweries.
Yep.
It was sort of a standalone, I guess, fancy sort of lager.
Yeah.
I think I've got the actual recipe ingrained in my mind of what was in it. But yeah. And then as you say, it got bought out and closed down, which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
It did quite well for 15 odd years, however long it was around for.
Yeah, it was around for a long time. And then when SAB Miller previously tried to acquire CUB, and the state government, the federal government, whoever it was, put a stop to it. They went after a smaller brewery and went into partnership with Coca-Cola. Obviously had distribution all over Australia, and they formed a new company, Pacific Beverages, and yeah, anyway, so then they decided, part of the agreement was that they would build a large state-of-the-art brewery, which was a 300 hectolitre brew house.
Decent size, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a couple more than these, but
10 times bigger than this one, really.
So yeah, it was through that new brewery that I managed to get a start, which was in Warnervale, just south of Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah, it all kicked off in the Hunter, didn't it?
Yeah, yes.
I remember the great Bruce Peachy was involved in that, setting up the beers. So I spent a bit of time working with.
Yeah.
But then after that, when Blue Tongue, you moved up to Burleigh.
Yeah, Burleigh Brewing.
So spent a bit of time there.
Heard about the closure. Wanted to stay in the industry. I still felt very young and fresh, so I was very keen. But
it hasn't aged you at all, mate.
No, it clearly hasn't. No. Yeah, and there was a brewer's job at Burleigh Brewing, but it would mean relocating my whole family up to Queensland. Luckily, I had the support of my wife, and my kids were quite young at the time, so it wasn't really going to upset their social lives, because they're very resilient young kids. So thankfully, my wife agreed. I got a job at Burleigh Brewing, moved up, and was there 4.5 years.
Yep. Not a bad place to live, really, in sort of southeast Queensland.
No, Queensland's beautiful. I'd take a lot to get me to move out of it.
Yeah. So Burleigh, and then on to Black Hops, if I'm telling the story right.
Correct.
So how long were you with Black Hops? 3 odd years?
Yeah, it was just shy of 4. So yeah, it's around 9 months or something.
Yeah. So I think when I first sort of met you properly was about just before COVID in 2020, when we went over to New Zealand for the hop trip.
That's right. When we just made it back before they shut the country down.
Probably not the only reason we just made it back. We won't dob ourselves in too much. So we went over to New Zealand with Hopco, Sandy from Hopco. That was yourself, Govs and Eddie.
Yep.
Me, and then who else? We have Smokey.
We had Smokey for a stint, and
Soch.
Yeah.
So it was a good crew.
Yeah.
And we literally got back in, well, I did anyway, the day that the borders closed.
Yeah.
I was a little bit anxious coming back into Australia. No one really knew what was happening at that point. Yeah, anyway, fast forward a couple of years, and then looking to get out of Black Ops and come and work for us for a while.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Yeah, I was looking for a change. Black Ops grew so quickly, so in such a short period of time, and I'd gone through all that, and it was a great experience. However, I wanted to change. I wanted to get back to the roots. I found myself in more of a leadership role than a hands-on role.
Yep.
And I wanted to be that dish pig. I wanted to be the guy scrubbing the floors, and I wanted to be on the brew deck actually making the brews. Like, that's what got me into the industry to begin with. Was the whole excitement. It's hard yakka and it's hot work, but it's fulfilling, and particularly when there's a lot of pressure on, that's when I seem to thrive the most. So,
yeah. And
coming here, there was a lot of pressure on. You didn't show up very much.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, you get sacked. No, it was great. It was honestly, it's probably apart from HQ when I first started with Black Ops, although it was only for a very short time, it was the best brewing experience, because when I came on board with Burleigh, already in the stages of looking to move and expand. So it was kind of just learning their system for that moment. And then like 6 months later, there was that whole transition where they moved and grew.
Yep.
Black Ops, I was only there maybe 3 months, and they had the second site starting up. I walked into this place knowing exactly what we were getting. And yeah.
Well, this is our second expansion site, but it's nothing compared to what Black Ops have done.
Not what I have previously. Not what I've previously
taken over the whole suburb. But no, it suits us, and it's good to, I guess, be that sort of a little bit smaller and still, well, they're definitely still crafty, but very hands-on.
And here, we're still more than capable. Well, no longer we, but yes, still more than capable to produce what's needed. Like, it's still got that craft vibe, but at the same time, it feels like Burleigh and Black Ops kind of got to a stage where it felt like it was more production. They'd gotten that big.
Yep.
It's not that they've stopped trying to create and be crafty. It's just, for my position where I was at, it felt like they'd outgrown me.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay small.
Yeah, cool. So that's a good segue into making this beer, mate.
Was, yes.
So this was your first beer you made here for us.
Yep.
So I think I threw it to you at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Put the recipe together and brewed the beer. We
Yep.
gave it, I don't know, a good month and a half in tank, as
Yes.
you should for a Pilsner.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you put the beer together, what you're aiming for.
Well, I wanted to, look, for me, this was like the biggest challenge as a brewer for me at Czech Pils. Anyone can make a Pilsner, anyone can make a lager, but it's hard to make a good Czech Pilsner, an authentic Czech Pilsner. I think with the whole craft industry, everyone's trying to do something new, trying to outdo the next person and, you know, throw in a rabbit's tail and a cane toad's foot. I don't know, but I just wanted to. Oh,
A cane toad's foot. I've never had that before.
I wanted to try and do it how it's done, but actually make it taste amazing. So I think Pilsner is one of the hardest beers to brew properly because there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
There's no overload of hops or aromas in your face that's going to hide anything that could be lingering there or anything that could be, you know, not what you were aiming for. So for me, it was a real challenge. So yeah, I wanted to, you know, use authentic Pilsner grain.
Yeah, we've got the Weimann Bohemian floor malted.
Yes.
It's probably the most expensive malt you can buy as a base malt.
I didn't know I was leaving at the time.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't afford to pay you after you spent all the money on the ingredients.
Yeah, and SARS hops,
Yep.
which, you know, is just Czech Pilsner all over it. Change up kind of the mash profile a little bit, like try and mash in lower, kind of aim for 58, we hit 60, and then raised it to 63, and then raised to 67, then raised to mash out.
Yeah.
78, try and get it dry and really cooked. And the best thing about the whole beer, to be honest, was the amount of time that it was allowed in tank, because that's something that most breweries won't or can't allow for, just given pressures of production and
Yeah, that's right.
everything else. So the fact that it was given the amount of tank time that it had has just added to the amazingness of it.
Helps sort of clean it up, doesn't it?
100%, yeah.
The lagering, that's actually what a lager is.
Yeah.
To store and give it that sort of tank time for everything to, all the more delicate flavors sort of come together. It's tasting pretty good. We packaged this, I think, 2 weeks ago, so I know you before. And yeah, it's tasting really nice. It's got that Bohemian malt we were just talking about. It's got that nice sort of biscuit sort of maltiness. Smokiness is not the right word, but it's verging on that sort of malty flavor.
Yes.
And then, yeah, you get that nice sort of hoppiness from the SARS.
Yeah.
I think we snuck in a bit of Hallertau as well, if I remember.
Yeah, we did.
There's just a hint of fruitiness I get from it as well.
Yes.
Which is probably from that, I'd say.
Yeah, that was just on a little bit of a dry hop side with SARS, just to kind of boost it up. So it's. I just talked about how I wanted to make an authentic Czech Pils. However, we did dry hop it, but lightly, to try and just enhance the real Pilsner aromas to it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
A lot of these beers wouldn't be dry hopped, probably.
No, not at all.
Sort of Czech Pils.
Which is why I just had to check myself.
The marketing team will be happy with that, mate. That's a very cool looking can though. I like it. It's got that sort of authentic sort of Czech beer look on it.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. I do like it.
No, you've done well, mate.
Best beer you guys have ever made. You're welcome.
Now, I've actually entered this into the World Beer Cup. So for the last 15 years in my brewing career, I've been chasing the famed Weimann jumpsuit. So to win one of those, you have to brew a gold medal. I think it's a trophy winning beer with Weimann malt.
Yep.
And last year we had the New Zealand Pilsner. I'm like, yes, finally we've done it. but apparently the AIBAs are no longer recognised as an international competition, even though it is. So you have to do it in the World Beer Cup, which is about 10 times harder again.
Yes.
It's already hard enough.
Yes.
So no pressure on it, but it's going over to the States, I think in March or something, to be judged in the World Beer Cup.
Okay.
So if it does happen to win the jumpsuit, I'm keeping it.
That's fine, you can keep it. I just want a pay rise.
No, very nice. I think it's only going to continue to improve as well as it sits in the can.
Yeah, 100%.
Most breweries we sort of advocate to drink fresh, but certain ones like this, if it's stored properly or it's kept cold and looked after,
100%.
should age pretty well.
Please store cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always store cold, regardless of what style of beer, but yes. It's the best piece of advice for anyone. Keep your beers cold.
Beautiful foam on it, mate. Looks like a good, delightful Pilsner. If we had our nice tall Pilsner glasses, present very well.
Oh, I actually had some I could have brought in.
Yes, anyway, mate, thank you for coming in, and I'm glad we could get you on camera for a chat.
Oh, is there a camera?
There is a camera. You did so well, you didn't even notice it. We might have to get you back. Yes, cheers, mate. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. If you get a chance, get out and grab yourself a Czech Pilsner. Available now.
Sell out, please.
Cheers, guys.